And I guess related to this, Jeff, I think people have to realize the difference between assets that create wealth, that would be stocks, bonds, et cetera, and maybe borrowing for assets that don't, that would be clothing, cars, which depreciate in value. Furniture, for example, might be lovely to have, but to borrow for it, these are assets that decline very quickly.
Yeah, and when I look at that compounding, and I have 3 in college now, so at the same time.
I'm sorry.
So it is rough, really rough. But, you know, because I get those bills and I'm thinking, you got to make the most of this because this is not cheap. But the reality of it is they have to discover what they want to do. And I try talking to them about compounding interest. And what occurred to me is that you look at this 6% number as an example. The biggest problem I have with that particular chart is getting people to agree that 6% is okay. And that's a very hard thing to do because what they hear a lot of times are the windfalls. They hear about, you know, in the real estate world, they hear about the guy who happened to own the piece of property that Amazon built a fulfillment center on. They hear about that and they think that that's what they're going to do. But in reality, you find a lot of the very wealthy investors were always willing to hit singles and doubles. And were satisfied with that. And when they got to a later age, they avoided the big pitfalls. And they don't sit around comparing whose portfolio does better than the other person. And I think we have to get, especially the millennials, to a point where they're willing to be satisfied with what would be considered by a lot of people mediocre returns.
I think a lot of the millennials, though, from what